Have you ever felt the sharp sting of sudden silence, the kind that leaves you questioning everything you thought was certain? You text, you wait, and the void only grows. Is he ghosting you? Has the bond unraveled? Or is there something deeper at work beneath the hush? If you're wrestling with that uneasy ache of distance, wondering whether his quiet means goodbye or a hidden rebirth, then you're standing at the very threshold this video was created to illuminate. Today, we're tearing back the veil on divine masculine silence. Together, we'll decode why "I'm done" isn't a door slamming shut, but a sacred initiation that dissolves old illusions and invites a higher alignment. You'll learn how this stillness dismantles centuries of fear-based programming, why his withdrawal is a return to authentic self, and how that shift ripples directly into your own spiritual evolution. By the end of our journey, you won't just understand his silence, you'll see it as a powerful catalyst for union. Expect your perspective to pivot from anxiety to anticipation, from feeling abandoned to recognizing preparation. You'll walk away armed with a new lens that transforms uncertainty into sacred opportunity. Ready to turn confusion into clarity? Stay with us to the final frame and discover how this quiet moment could be the loudest leap toward the life and love you're meant to claim. Number 1. The breaking point. Not abandonment, but awakening. Have you ever felt the silence in your connection shift, so subtly yet so profoundly, that it no longer echoed with pain, but with preparation? If so, you're not alone. What you sensed was not the beginning of an ending, but the start of something deeper, more sacred. There comes a pivotal moment on every divine masculine's journey where the silence no longer carries the weight of avoidance or confusion. Instead, it becomes a sacred stillness, a quiet revolution taking place deep within his soul. This moment is not fueled by frustration, nor is it born out of anger or resistance. It is not the kind of silence that punishes or retreats. Rather, it is a surrender so complete that it dismantles all former versions of self. What he is stepping away from is not you. It's the illusion of who he thought he needed to be in order to be loved. For so long, he has worn the mask of strength without vulnerability, capability without emotional need, stability without softness. He believed this armor made him worthy, made him reliable, made him enough. But now, the weight of that armor has become too heavy to carry. The persona he carefully built to protect himself, to survive in the world, to meet expectations, it's no longer sustainable in the frequency of truth and divine love. That mask is cracking. The break may appear as distance, may feel like silence, but underneath, it's a sacred dismantling, a soul awakening, a complete reordering of identity, not to become someone new, but to return to who he truly is beneath all the layers. He is not abandoning love. He is awakening to it. He is not running away. He is releasing what no longer fits. And as he lets go of the version of himself built in survival mode, he opens to a version shaped by soul. A version that can finally hold love not as a performance, but as presence, not as duty, but as devotion. This is not the end of the story. It's the holy unraveling before the reunion, the sacred silence before the return. And if you've felt it, if you've known that this quiet is not about loss, but about resurrection, then trust this. The breaking point is not a breakaway, it's a breakthrough. Before we move deeper into this journey, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever felt this kind of silence? A pause that didn't feel like rejection, but like a sacred space being carved out for something greater. If this resonates with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experience in the comments or simply type, "I honor the sacred silence," to affirm this stage of your awakening. And if this message speaks to your heart, don't forget to like the video. It helps this message reach more souls who may need it right now. Let's continue walking this path together, Number 2. Silent transformation. The fire within. Have you felt the quiet shift in his energy, the subtle yet undeniable pullback that speaks louder than any words ever could? Perhaps he's not reaching out like he once did. Maybe the messages have stopped, or the conversations have turned vague, hesitant, or even final. But underneath that silence, there is something sacred unfolding. If you listen, not just with your ears, but with your heart, you will hear what he cannot yet say out loud. I am no longer the man I used to be, but I'm still afraid of the man I'm becoming. This isn't detachment, it's transformation. He's not walking away from you. He's stepping away from a version of himself that no longer fits the frequency of where his soul is being called. What may appear on the surface as withdrawal is, in truth, a deep internal alchemy, a fire that burns away the masks, the survival strategies, and the outdated beliefs that once shaped his identity. The silence is not rejection, it is his soul's sacred cocoon, where everything he thought he had to be is dissolving so something truer can emerge. For the divine masculine, this space in between who he was and who he is meant to become, is the most vulnerable place he's ever stood. Letting go is no longer a sign of defeat. It has become an act of faith. He is surrendering not just the connection, but his control over how it should look, how it should unfold, and who he thought he needed to be in order to deserve love. He is releasing timelines, attachments, expectations, and the illusion that he has to understand everything before he can trust it. And in doing so, he is making space for something more honest, more aligned, more divine. So if you're feeling like your story with him is closing, don't be fooled by the quiet. This is not an ending. This is the sacred pause before a new chapter begins. It's the space where alignment replaces attachment, where soul meets soul without the interference of ego or fear. His spirit is whispering through the silence, I must allow the old to die. Only then can I rise anew and meet you again, not in illusion, but in truth. This transformation is not always visible. It may not come with grand gestures or perfect timing, but rest assured, it is happening. The fire within him is real, and as it burns away what no longer serves, he is becoming the man his soul always knew he was meant to be. The one who can finally hold you, not in fragments, but in wholeness. Number 3, divine timing and the soul's surrender. Have you ever mistaken silence for abandonment, only to discover later that something far more profound was quietly at work beneath the surface? Divine timing seldom obeys the storms of human emotion. Instead, it follows the steady cadence of soul readiness. When the masculine declares he is done, he is not rejecting love itself. He is refusing to linger in delay. He is finished with the facade, finished pretending that superficial power can substitute for authentic strength, finished amplifying the noise that drowns out the whisper of his own heart. His words may sound final, but what has ended is the performance, not the connection. This rupture you feel is not a break from you, but a tear in the illusion that held both of you hostage. In that sudden stillness, the entire stage goes dark, props fall away, and only truth remains, unadorned and undeniable. If you have ever felt a moment when stillness felt heavier, deeper, and more electrifying than any fervent action, you have touched the pulse of divine timing. That pulse is an invitation, an insistence that everything false must fall so the authentic can rise. In this sacred pause, he is not pushing you away so much as stepping aside to let his soul breathe. He is dismantling each layer of ego that once dictated how love should appear, how quickly it should unfold, and how safe it must feel. He pauses because there is no other way for clarity to emerge. He falls silent because words, no matter how eloquent, cannot articulate the metamorphosis taking place inside him. And from the chrysalis of that silence, something truer will ascend. Here is where the feminine enters the mystery, not as a passive spectator, but as an anchor of consciousness. She is called to rise, not in restless waiting, but in rooted presence. To embody love's frequency so completely that it magnetizes truth rather than chases illusion. In choosing to stand unwavering, she participates in the cosmic choreography. Her grounded radiance creates the field in which the masculine can safely shed his armor and reveal his authentic heartbeat. So do not fear the quiet, honor it. For in the hush between heartbeats, the universe rearranges itself, and what once felt like distance becomes the very crucible of union. Number 4. The feminine's sacred response. In the past, the unawakened feminine may have crumbled in the face of silence. She might have pleaded for clarity, clung to certainty, or spiraled into the ache of rejection. But the awakened feminine has grown beyond the old patterns of fear and reaction. She no longer seeks external answers to soothe internal wounds. Instead, she breathes deeply into the unknown. She doesn't chase, she doesn't beg, she anchors. She holds not a story, not an expectation, but a frequency, a vibration of remembrance that transcends form and time. This stillness is not passivity, it is power in its purest form. It is magnetic, not manipulative. The awakened feminine becomes the steady flame in the middle of the storm, the lighthouse guiding ships not by shouting, but by shining. She is the home he forgot he was searching for, but she does not create this home for him. She creates it within herself. While he deconstructs illusion, she radiates truth. While he questions everything, she lives her knowing. She does not pause her evolution for his return. She continues to expand, to heal, to lead with grace and purpose. Her wholeness is not conditional. It is not the reward for his presence or the response to his absence. It is the sacred remembering of who she has always been beneath the projections, the longing, and the roles. She stands tall, not to be chosen, but because she has chosen herself. And in that fierce, loving sovereignty, she becomes the mirror that reflects his truth back to him. It is in her stillness, not in words or waiting, that he feels safe enough to face his own becoming. She does not hold out her hands in desperation. She holds the frequency of reunion within her very being. In that space, there is no force, only invitation. He does not return to her as a savior or a solution. He returns to truth. Because in her presence, truth no longer feels like something to fear, but something that can finally be lived. If you've made it this far, it means your soul was meant to receive this message. Take a moment to breathe and reflect. Have you witnessed these shifts within yourself or your connection? Your journey, your silence, your strength, they all carry wisdom. We would love to hear your story. Share your experience in the comments, whether it's a moment of realization, a turning point, or simply how these words resonate with your heart. And if you don't know what to say, just type, "I anchor truth, not fear," as your affirmation today, to declare your alignment, your remembrance, and your power. Your voice matters. Your presence here is sacred. Number 5. The sacred purpose of silent closure. Not every chapter of love ends with a conversation. Sometimes, the deepest closures come in silence, without warning, without explanation, without words to anchor the goodbye. But this silence is not empty. It holds the weight of lifetimes, of karmic contracts unraveling, of spiritual initiations playing out in the background of the heart. What appears as distance is often a sacred intervention, a pause orchestrated by the soul to dismantle what no longer serves. It's not rejection, it's not abandonment. It's a sacred surgery, one that slices through the illusions we cling to. the illusion that love must always be expressed through dialogue, that healing follows a straight path, or that completion can only be found outside of ourselves. In this space of stillness, something far more profound begins to unfold. The masculine is no longer running, blaming, or distracting himself. He's finally facing the shadows he spent years avoiding, the parts of himself that were unlovable, unworthy, or unseen. These are not wounds that a romantic connection alone can fix. They are fragments of self that require solitude, silence, and soul-level surrender. In this quiet crucible, he no longer sees the feminine as pressure or demand. Her energy, once misinterpreted through the lens of survival, becomes something different. She becomes presence, unspoken, unforced, and unwavering. This is the sacred alchemy of silent closure. It is the death of the false masculine self, the one who wore masks, chased approval, and feared vulnerability. And through this death, something new is born. The silence becomes a portal, not an end. A spiritual rite of passage, not a retreat. It creates space for something real to rise, an authentic self that is no longer defined by roles or ego, but by truth, intimacy, and soul alignment. This silence, then, is not the absence of love. It is its most powerful teacher, a reminder that real connection isn't forged through constant contact, but through courageous transformation. So, if you find yourself in this space, where the silence feels heavy, sacred, and strangely alive, know that you are not being forgotten. You are being prepared. Something ancient is being undone so that something eternal can begin. Imagine a woman standing at the edge of a quiet shoreline at dawn. She hasn't heard from the man she once called her mirror in weeks. No message, no closure, just silence. And yet, as the waves kiss her feet and the sky begins to blush with morning light, she feels something shift inside her. She remembers how, months ago, he would look at her with wonder, but also with fear, afraid of what she awakened in him, afraid of the depth. He loved her, but not from a place of wholeness. He loved her while wearing armor. And now, in the quiet absence of his voice, she begins to understand. This silence is not a vanishing, it's a vow unspoken. A vow that he will not come back until he can meet her without the mask. He is not rejecting her, he is rescuing himself. And in doing so, he is protecting the love they once shared from being reduced to another unfinished story. In this moment, she doesn't feel abandoned. She feels chosen by a higher plan. She turns toward the rising sun, no longer waiting, but witnessing. A sacred closure that doesn't end the connection, but transforms it. Number 6. Collapse of illusion, birth of truth. There comes a moment on the spiritual path when timelines begin to collapse. Suddenly, the future that once seemed certain dissolves, and the past loses its grip. Karmic attachments that once bound us tightly start to loosen, unraveling connections that no longer resonate with our soul's evolution. What once felt like regression, like a painful step backward, is actually sacred repositioning. The universe, in its wisdom, dismantles what was never aligned with truth so that something real can finally take root. In the midst of this internal and external chaos, the divine feminine is given an assignment that is both radical and deeply sacred. To stay still, not to retreat, not to chase, not to fill the space with frantic energy, but to anchor. In the stillness, she becomes a lighthouse, not a siren song of desperation, but a silent radiance of unwavering truth. Her energy no longer pleads for his return. Instead, it whispers, "I am here, in truth, in love, in sovereignty." She no longer bends herself to fit the shape of old cycles. She no longer waits in wounded expectation, hoping for scraps of clarity or crumbs of affection. She rises, not out of resistance, but in remembrance. She remembers who she truly is. She remembers that love does not require self-abandonment, that power does not mean control, and that presence speaks louder than pursuit. And this rising is not about proving anything. It is not performance. It is embodiment. She becomes the version of herself who no longer needs the old story to feel whole. She releases the script that says union must follow a particular path or timeline. Her worth is no longer contingent on his return, but on her own alignment. And this is where real timelines begin. Not timelines built on dependency or old wounds, but timelines forged in truth, wholeness, and spiritual alignment. In that frequency, he will feel her, not as pressure, but as presence, not as expectation, but as invitation. And if he is ready, if his soul is attuned to the call of truth, he, too, will rise. Not to rescue her, not to complete her, but to meet her, soul to soul, on the path where illusion has collapsed and truth is finally born. So if your heart aches right now, let it ache. Let the tears fall, let the silence speak, and let the unraveling happen. This isn't destruction, it's divine construction. The old illusions must fall apart so the deeper truth can rise. You are not broken, you are breaking open. You are not waiting for him, you are awakening with him, whether he realizes it yet or not. And this ache, this pause, this surrender, it's not the end of your love story. It's the threshold of something sacred. Letting go is not weakness. It is the highest form of spiritual strength. It is standing tall in your soul's knowing, even when the ego screams in confusion. You are not abandoned. You are being refined. And he is not lost. He is being summoned by the gravity of truth. The reunion you long for is not something time gives you. It is something frequency awakens within you. You become the alignment. You become the lighthouse. And if he's ready, he will follow the light. Not because you asked, but because his soul remembers. And if he doesn't rise, you still do. Because this journey was never about chasing someone. It was about returning to yourself. True love doesn't demand attachment. It invites transformation. And in that sacred transformation, everything changes. If this touched your soul, comment below, "Letting go is how I rise." Don't forget to like, share this message, and watch the next video right below, because your journey deserves to be seen, and your heart deserves to be understood.